Oh boy, Five Nights at Freddy's is finally here, and the movie it's not good. If you're a fan of the franchise, I can see you having some enjoyment here, but at its core, it's not a good film. And unfortunately, I don't know if I can recommend this to anyone unless you're the most hardcore Five Nights at Freddy's fan. So, yes, if you have Peacock already, it's probably a decent film to just, watch for a bunch of people for some laughs because it's not a horror film. It's actually pretty funny and it has a lot of leaps in logic because it tries to tell a story that's original while at the same time being tethered to the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. So we follow Mike Smith. He is taking care of his little sister Abby after the death of his parents, but he suffers from deep-seated trauma after the death of his little brother when he was young. Because of that, he can't really hold down a job, and he's also battling for custody for his little sister from their aunt, who serves as a generic bad person. She just wants to gain custody of Abby for the state check that she'll get for taking care of her, trying to sue him in family court. But it's clear that the counselor, at least at her school, agrees that he's the best person to take care of her. But he's unemployed, so he takes a job at Freddy Fazbear after a counselor recommends him for that. The career counselor recommends him for the position. At first, he doesn't take it because he can't work nights because he takes care of Abby. But then he decides to take it in order to better his chances that the judge won't look at him as a drug addict with no job, because he's also addicted to sleeping pills, which he uses to relive the memories of when Garrett was killed, his little brother, in hopes of trying to solve the crime and learn who this killer was. But in reality, I mean, anyone could pick out that he's just reliving the memory because he was happier back then with his family, and his mother and father are dead now. So all he has is Abby right now. So he goes to Freddy Fazbear, and things start to escalate as nights go on. Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Freddy start to become more hostile to him as time goes on. Vanessa, who comes into the story the first night that he's at Freddy Fazbear, serves as the plot convenient narrator. She just tells you what's going on, what's happening. She's there mostly for people who know nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's to just information dump all this data, but anyone will be able to pick out that she's more than meets the eyes. She may be a cop, but come on. You find out very obviously that she's there for more than just being there as a cop. So, yeah, the story is pretty, by the numbers. Blumhouse is known for churning out very low-budget films to try and maximize profit, either through popularity of IPs or because, a lot of people just watch them through streaming services, but it's not that great. I think Mike's story is pretty profound. It's nothing special, but it is done well enough about the idea of using the dead children from Freddy Fazbear to infiltrate his mind and try and coax him into doing things that he normally would not do. But there's also this bleeding effect. Apparently what happens in this dream happens in real life, which makes no sense. There's a lot of stuff that won't make any sense, even from a Five Nights at Freddy's perspective. Like, when he gets hurt in the dream, he gets hurt in real life. So I'm just like, is this like a Freddy Krueger situation? So why doesn't they just kill him there? But it's also even weirder of why the kids are killing or how they're able to kill, because there's one scene in the film that I'm just like still confused about. But they try to tell their own story while remaining loyal to the lore, and it just pulls in two directions, causing just havoc on both sides. I think if they told in a wholly original story while being set in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, it would have been much better off. But I think they want that fan service as much as possible, and people would have probably complained if they didn't have the core characters and things that happened, unlike the books where they had some more leeway about how they want to establish that. I've seen MatPat's videos. I didn't read the books, but the summaries are there. And it just starts to fall apart when they try to incorporate the lore aspects into the original story. It just doesn't follow suit, and eventually leads to a low-key ending that leaves open for a sequel, but I doubt they're going to make one. I think it's best if they close it off here because it is a closed loop. They can make a sequel out of this, or they can choose not to do something with whatever is left here. But I think Mike would be a probably better character because I did like his story, his relationship with Abby, trying to remain afloat and be a good provider while also caring deeply for his family. As for Vanessa, I liked her too. Like the actors did a good job. Outside from Mike, Abby, and Vanessa, they were pretty boring outside of the outside cast, the supporting cast. They were just not that great, but those three, they did a good job for what they were trying to convey to the audience. I kind of want to see them again, but at the same time, it'll be hard to do so. So if I were to give this film a grade, I would give it the lowest 5 I can give it, because I'm a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's. I played most of the games, seen the theories, and I like it as a story. But in this context, the way it's told from a movie perspective, it just doesn't work and it falls apart very quickly. I don't think movies are the best way to convey this story. Sometimes it works in the way of movies for video games, but sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, it doesn't. Like, it's really there with a lot of the trash fire that comes from movies based on video games. Like, it just doesn't work. And if you're coming into this with no knowledge of it, I think that it would do more damage than good. So the lowest, I would say, if you have Peacock already, it's fine. But if you don't, it's not worth going to the movie theater or watching on Peacock. It's just not worth it. So I'll get into spoilers after this. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, this is where I'm going to end it. And yeah, that's it. All right, time for spoilers. So it turns out that the reason that Mike is having these dreams is because he wants to go back and spend time with his family before everything transpired. After Garrett's death, his little brother, his mother fell into a deep depression. It's kind of hinted at, but they have Abby afterwards, so it's not really made clear of like why they had another kid, but they lost their first kid, so maybe they thought it would make it better. But regardless, their mother dies, and then their father ends up taking his own life. Which, I mean, I guess he lost his son, and now he lost his wife. I guess not having his other son and daughter be enough for him wasn't. But yeah, since then, Garrett has been trying to relive those memories and telling himself no. He's trying to figure out who murdered his brother, thinking that there are memories stored in his mind that he just needs to uncover. And then the dead children take advantage of that to try and exploit his desire to be with Garrett and his mother and father, to try and convince him to bring Abby to the facility in hopes they can turn her into another animatronic to play with. But the core of why these kids kill make no sense. So the career counselor is William Afton. He is using his position to get security guards to Freddy Fazbear to kill them, which makes no sense because you would assume like people would start to take notice of all these bodies people are disappearing. And he uses his daughter Vanessa in order to cover all of these up, but there is an extent in which this can go on for, because you can see like by the end of the film, you see there are a lot of bodies out there. Even if you don't include the delinquents that the ant hires in order to trash the place to try and get the guy fired, it's still a lot of bodies, because it seems like they're doing this frequently. Because he specifically picks out Mike because he sees that he is the little brother of Garrett. Like, he looks at his file and sees who he is, and then that's what he does. And then he basically is hinted that he owns the facility, because he's like, the pay is bad, the hours suck. And I'm just like, aren't you going to like put two and two together? So he apparently owns this place and lures people in to kill them and uses his daughter to cover it all up. And the reason the kids do this for him is because they believe that he's their friend. They don't remember that he killed them. And the way the kids kill also make no sense whatsoever, because there's a scene with Golden Freddy where he just appears in their home. And I'm just like, so if they could just appear out of nowhere, why don't they just do that? They don't need to lure people into the facility. He could just teleport. So he teleports, kills the ant, and then he brings Abby to Freddy Fazbear by going into a taxi, and the guy's just completely okay with this. And I was just like, so he can interact with the physical plane despite being a spirit? Because he's supposed to be a spirit. He's not supposed to be actually there. So it was just like, okay. And then what Abby does is that she paints a picture. Like, she literally just draws a picture of him killing them, and that jogs their memory and then causes them to turn against William Afton. And then the springlock traps trigger, killing him in the suit. They drag him to the back and just kind of leave him there like the sufferer. So yeah, it's just like there. And then Vanessa, she gets stabbed by William Afton, who comes out and says, I want to kill you because I killed your brother. Now I want to kill you. She's trying to, like, she is clearly intimidated by him. She doesn't want to do this, but she does it anyway out of obligation and fear. And then he ends up stabbing her, which puts her into a coma. And then Mike visits her every week, apparently. After the entire fiasco, he gets a better job. The aunt's no longer trying to take custody of Abby. He has a better relationship with her, given their life and death experience. And he just visits her, and I'm just like, aren't you going to ask questions about all the people that she helped kill? Not to mention she was aware of the dead children, which is still going on because in the aftermath, like, they're still there and still, suffering in those animatronics. Did you not tell anyone, like, hey, those dead kids, they're in those things, so maybe we should get those bodies out of there and, give them to the parents. Maybe they will finally be put to rest because they still have parents. And then we, burn everything to the ground because that should happen. We dismantle the animatronics, just put it down for good. Because that's also a concern in all the Five Nights at Freddy's games. People just keep wondering who the fuck is funding all of this. Because it's insane how anyone funds all of this stuff. But yeah, the story really just carries little weight. And it just does so many things that make no sense. To the point, like, I mean, I did like the idea that Vanessa arms him with like a taser and like a catapult to stun the animatronics. So that's cool. Like, that's been something that a lot of people have been asking. They're like, why isn't there like something that they can use to defend themselves with? So in this case, that's kind of cathartic. It's like, yeah, he can defend himself. He has electronics, tasers, he uses that to stun the animatronics. But of course, because it's supernatural, they just somehow get self-repaired and are able to do the same thing that they always been doing. But yeah, the big twist at the end it doesn't make any sense, because how is it that they're just able to just forget how they were murdered, and Abby drawing a picture just jogs their memory? It's just so absurd, on top of the whole idea that Vanessa just, like, I feel bad for her that she's in the coma, and it's clear, like, her father abused her and made her do all this stuff, but at the same time, she's responsible for all these people's deaths, not to mention she knew what happened to those kids and kept quiet for all these years. On top of it, I'm not sure, like, I'm not an expert on William Afton, but doesn't he only kill kids? Does he kill adults? Like, I don't think he kills adults, he just kills kids. So why would he go after adults, and why would he go after like Mike? Like, it makes no sense. Like, don't go after the guy, you don't need to kill him. Like, you only go after kids. So I don't know, I'm not a psychopath like him. Maybe there's a psychopathic reason. Maybe a psychiatrist can be more reasonable and understanding of why he did this. But yeah, that's it. I think that's all the spoilers. We covered Vanessa, we covered the ending, we covered the PTSD and why he wants to remain with his family. We talked about the weird dream sequence where he somehow gets injured while in the dream, which makes no sense. But yeah, that's it. That's it for spoilers. Like I said, this is something that's not going to be that great. I would highly recommend that you watch Willy's Wonderland instead. It's a far superior film. It's a lot more entertaining, and plus you got Nick Cage in that, who's just a joy to watch either way. So that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike. That's me signing out.